वेदान्तार्थविभासकाय गुरवे शान्ताय सन्न्यासिने नानावादीनगेन्द्रसङ्घपवये योगीन्द्रवन्द्याय च मोहध्वान्तदिवाकराय भगवत्पादाभिधां बिभ्रते तस्मै भाष्यकृते नमोऽस्तु सततम् पूर्णाय बोधात्मने ब्रह्माहं यत्प्रसादेन मयि विश्वं प्रकल्पितम् श्रीमत्स्वयं प्रकाशाख्यं प्रणौमि जगतां यः परमात्मा जगत् सृष्ट्वा प्रविवेश पुनः स्वयं तं कृष्णं प्रत्यगात्मानं वन्दे गोपी मनोहरम् यस्य प्रसादादहमद्वयात्मा विश्वं समस्तं मयि कल्पितं च तं सर्वलोकैकगुरुं सदाश्री स्वयं प्रकाशं गुरुमानतोऽस्मि गुरूणां चरणाम्भोजं प्रणिपत्य निरन्तरं तत्कृपालेशतोऽद्वैत चिन्ताकौस्तुभमारभेयो। A very important thing which we have understood is, though the consciousness is one with different conditionings, it gains different names. And these conditionings that pertain to a particular state of experience, they are just available only in those states of experience. So the state of experience and the condition now can be equated in the sense the gross body is available only in the waking state. Let the dream state arrive and you try to find where the gross body is. In the dream state, there can be a dream body, but you won't be able to find the gross body at all. So the gross body is pertaining only to the gross state, to the waking state. Let this sushupti arrive and then try to find out where this swapna deha, the subtle body, is, and you cannot find that. And therefore now, these avasthas, these are the states of experience which the same consciousness, presently under the influence of ignorance, etc., undergoes. Tasyeva abhimaninaha jivasya. So these are the experiences of the jiva. People may want to write their biographies, autobiographies, saying quoting and, eulogizing their own experiences. After all, the experiences are just these. Jagrat, Swapna, and Sushupti, the waking, the dream, and the deep sleep. Whatever may be the experience is the experience avantara, in the waking state, in the dream state, and there is nothing that can be claimed to be experienced in the deep sleep except for the joy of it and the ignorance. So now we are going to look at what are the states of experience, and they have been enumerated as 5 over here by this author. And he says, Pancha, these are the 5. Jagrat, meaning the waking, Swapna, the dream, Sushupti, the deep sleep, Murcha, the state of unconsciousness, and Marana means the state of death. Now, we need to understand how each one of them is different from each other. Because if we do not understand them, then we will not have a proper definition of every state. So now the teacher provides us that definition in the original text, and the commentary helps us to understand the definition which is provided. So this is the topic of the day. Digadi adhishtatra devata anugrihitaihi indriyaihi shabdadi vishayanubhavavastha jagatavastha. When can it be said as this is the state of experience which is waking? Answer to this is when one experiences the world. Now, what is this world? The world that is experienced over here is nothing but just these 5 objects. Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha. Okay? Shabda meaning the sound, Sparsha the touch, Rupa meaning the forms, colors and forms, Rasa meaning the taste, gustatory stimuli, and the Gandha, the smells. Whatever is there is just different types of forms, different types of tactual experiences, different types of olfactory experiences, gustatory experiences. But at the end of it, whether it is sweet or salty, whether it is pungent or bitter, all this is what the knowledge of taste. Whether some form is ugly, beautiful, attractive, repulsive, does not matter. After all, it is just a form. Now he says, these are the 5 objects which are experienced, and in order to experience these, we are equipped with these indriyas. We are equipped with the organs of knowledge and organs of action. And these organs have to be presided over by their respective deities. Okay? These are the officers in charge who will grace, who will allow now these organs to function so that the world can be contacted. Who's here? Somebody just needs to see, is this getting recorded or not?
Yes, Swamiji, it is getting recorded.
Okay, because it does not show that sign. Never mind. So now, Digadi adhishtatra devata anigrihitaihi indriyaihi. Now, just the indriyas are not there. They need to be made functional. And what is it that gives them this ability to function? Yeah, it is the grace of those respective devatas. Who are these devatas? Digvatarka prachetal Shrivanindropendra Pratyakaha Tatha Chandrash Chaturvaktro Rudrakshetra Ishvaraha. Now he gives you a list of these devatas, and then we have to associate them with their indriya that they are gracing, or they uh, uh, energize. So here we have actually done this part of it, which devata is less is what. So ताभिदेवताभिः, okay. Iti shlokokta devata vatadi devata grihyante. Thus in the commentary section now he says, now these devatas are told to you. These are vatadi devata, like the vayu, etc. Okay. Dik devata will bless the shrotrendriya. Vata devata blesses the sparshendriya, which means the tvagendriya. Tvagindriya. Arka Devata, the Surya will bless the Aditya blesses the eyes, meaning the Chakshurindriya, so on and so forth. Tadhi Devatatihi Anugrihitani Adhishtat. Now, what is the meaning of Anugraha over here? By providing their grace. So he says, Adhishthitani, that they preside over. Adhisthitani means they preside over, as if coming and occupying the office. So they preside over. Adhisthitani indriyani yani shrotriyendriyani tairiti yavat. So all indriyas, meaning we have the definition. Indriyas are these 5 organs of action, 5 organs of knowledge. Shrotradi tairiti yavat. Shabdadi Vishayanubhava Jagrat Avastha. Say, suppose if we had not included or made the definition this big, saying that, oh, well, presided over these devatas, when there is experience of, the Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha, we can consider it as Jagrat Avastha. Well, look at the definition. Because we have to check every part of the definition. What is unrequired, or what is superfluous, or what can be, what is it that is in the definition that is missing? Because when we want to define something, the definition should go and should be able to spot that what we want to show. And therefore, Ativyapti, Avyapti, Asambhavana, these are the doshas, these are the defects which need to be avoided. So thus, over here, if we were to avoid the part that Digadi Devata Adhishthatani Indriyani, if we were to say that just experience of Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha can be considered to be Jagrat Avastha, what would happen? So he says, if you were to say only that much, only experience of the sound and roop and colors and forms, etc., is called as the waking experience, then in that Shabdadi Vishayanubhavavastha Jagrat Avastha Ityukte, if we were just to say this much and avoid saying, presided over by these deities, etc., what would happen? Swapne ativyapti. Our definition would have spilled into the swapnavastha. you wanted to show what is Jagrata Avastha, but you landed in showing including Swapna Avastha, so there is a confusion. So your definition is not as precise as it should be. So Swapne Ativyapti. Why, sir? How would it go and spill into Swapna Avastha? He says, Vasanamaya Vishayanubhavasya Sattva. Because in your dream state also, don't you experience colors and forms? Do you don't experience sounds in the dream? Do you don't have the experience of touch? You dreamt that you touched or lifted a pot which was very hot and you burnt your fingers. So there is an experience of touch. There is an experience of smell. There is an experience of taste. There is an experience of seeing of colors and forms and of even sound. Every experience. So if you were to say that Jagrata Avastha is that Jagrata means the waking state is that state where you experience these objects, then these same objects, similar experiences there even in Swapna Avastha, and therefore that definition could not have shown you exactly what is Jagrata Avastha, because it would have gone overspilled, overstepped into Swapna. Therefore, okay. Iti Vasanamaya Vishayanubhavasya Sattva. And therefore, in order to avoid this confusion, we have the part in the definition which says Digadi Ityuktam, that these Indriyas need to be presided over by the deities. Okay? Anugrihitani, Adhishthitani, Digadi Ityuktam, Swapnavasthayam, Indriyanam, Upara Tattvat, Tajanya Vishayanubhavan, na Ativyapti. Because now, when these deities are going to preside over these Indriyas, which means now these Indriyas, you have the equipments to experience the objects. These are your equipments, endowed with the equipment called as the Chakshurindriya, the eyes. You can experience colors and forms. Endowed with the equipment called as the Shravanendriya, Shrotrendriya, you can experience the sounds, pleasant sound and unpleasant sound, does not matter whether it is some nice music or some cacophony, it doesn't matter. The experience of sound is there, and that is because now you are endowed with this equipment. Hey, but then who has allowed this equipment to become functional for you? And it is said the deities which are sitting, presiding over it. And this is not there in Swapnavastha. Swapnavastha, though you are experiencing Shabda Sparsha Rupa Rasa Gandha, but it is not actually like this. Why? We will tell you. Ato tam then Shabdadi Vishayanubhava Avastha Jagrata Avastha. Because in the Swapna, in your dream state, actually the Indriyas have withdrawn. These deities have brought their equipment. They have pulled the equipment. Equipment means just don't think about a physical structure, okay? The physical structure is only a structure where these Indriyas now become available to function. This is only their office from where they will function. But they have to come and sit over there. And not only that they will come, the Indriyas, the equipment is brought. Even those people who are the technicians behind these equipments, the deities also need to be there. And therefore, now those deities have taken away their instruments. And so the physical structures may be there, eyes may be there, nose may be there, ears may be there. So therefore you go a person who is sleeping or he is dreaming, you sit next to him and you talk very nice things about him. Hey, you're very sweet, you're beautiful, you're an angel. Hey, it doesn't make any difference. Or he is sleeping in, and you go and abuse that person, scoundrel of the first order. It doesn't make any difference. He can't hear, he has no experience. Though the structures are there. So structures are not what receive the objects. The structures are only the places from where the equipments can become functional. And these equipments come and they are made to sit over there. But those deities who are responsible for making these equipments functional are different. And so now, therefore, in Swapnavastha, you are not really experiencing the objects. Okay. Then what are we experiencing? In the dream state, also you see an elephant, a lion, the mountains, so on and so forth. What is it that you are experiencing? So he now is going to say, we will go to that part. Ataha, therefore, the experience of these five objects is what is said to be Jagrat Avastha, and this experience of these objects is also due to the Indriyas, and also when the Indriyas are presided over by the deities. So in the definition of Jagrat Avastha, you have these three elements. One, experience of the objects, A. Presence of the Indriyas, and Indriyas presided over by the deities. So when there are these three things together, we know that this is Jagrat Avastha. This is the waking state. Okay, now. Sushuptau. Okay. Vishayanu. See, suppose if we were not to include this part of the definition where it is said experience of these objects such as the Shabda Sparsha, the touch and the colors and forms, etc. If we were not to include this part into the definition, what would happen? Because even in Sushupti, even in the deep sleep, there is experience of something other than you, and that is the ignorance. So only Vishayanubhava is, if was to be said as Jagrat Avastha, it would overspill into Sushupti. Vishayanubhava Avastha, Jagrat Avastha ityukte, Sushuptau Ativyapti. Only if it was to be said Vishayanubhava Avastha is Jagrat Avastha, then it would spill into Sushupti. Sushuptau Ativyapti. Why? Tatrapi Ajnana Vishayaka Sakshanubhavasya Sattva, because there is an experience of ignorance in the deep sleep. And this is Sakshanubhava. This is the experience of the witnessing consciousness. And therefore, Sakshanubhavasya Sattva. And therefore, all the elements which are now given into the definition of Jagrat Avastha are important, and therefore everything needs to be taken into consideration. All these three parts. Digadi Adhishthatra Devata Anugrahitai Indriyai Shabdadi Vishayanubhavavastha. So these three parts, put these three together, and then you have what can be called as the waking experience. Okay. Sushuptau Shabdadi Vishayanam Antakarana vrittehe tadashraya pramatritvopadhyantakaranadina cha leenatvad nativyaptihi. In Sushupti, in the deep sleep, there is no question of experiencing the objects like the colors and forms, etc. Why, sir? Because in the Sushupti, the Antakarana, the inner equipment, the mind, what has happened to it? Antakarana vrittehe tadashraya pramatritva upadhi antakaranadina. The, the, the thought forms and also the pramata meaning the ego of the knower. Now, don't think ego means that, egoism and egotism and all these things. No, we are not into that thing. The ego means the one who simply now claims that this is me. So the knower, I know something, whatever. Presently now, if you are experiencing the sound of Swamiji, so I know I am an experiencer. So this is the pramata, both the vritti, and for the pramata to become functional, what is required? The antakarana vritti, the thought form is required. In Sushupti, both of these things are not there because it is lean, it is dissolved. Okay. Sushuptau shabdadi vishayanam antakarana vrittehe tadashraya pramatritva upadhyantakaranaadinancha leenatvat. Hey, it is not there, and therefore there is no question that Sushupti can be said as can go into Shabda, Sparsha, etc. No, it is not there. Because even the ego is also now dissolved, is not there. He is not there. Okay? Leenatvat nativyapti. When would it have been an ativyapti? Only if you were to say Vishayanubhavavastha is called as Jagratavastha. Because there is a experience, there is Vishaya, even in Sushupti. What is the experience? The experience of ignorance. And therefore, ignorance over here in Sushupti is the object of your experience. The experience is not of colors and forms, men and animal and the trees and bees and everything. Then the experience, the object of experience is ignorance. So therefore, you look back at the state of deep sleep. You wake up, you say, I did not know anything. Therefore, now nativyapti is shabdani vishayaka Shabdani Vishayakarantakarana Vritti Pratibimbitam Chaitanyam Shabdani Vishayanubhavaha. This part is quite technical, but whenever you have a technical definition, it makes you very, very precise and sharp. You cannot be wrong over there. And therefore, there is a beauty about it. Shabdani Vishayakarantakarana Vritti Pratibimbitam Chaitanyam Shabdani Vishayanubhavaha. We are looking at this particular line. Now, you are experiencing a pot. Let us say there is a clay pot. Ghata Anubhava. You are seeing the pot. When can you say that this is your experience of the pot. Huh? Only when this the mind travels through the eyes and assumes the form of the pot. So unless and until there is a thought in the form of the pot, and in that thought is the consciousness illuminating the thought and its content. And therefore now, pratibimbitam chaitanyam shabdadi vishayakara antakarana vritti pratibimbitam chaitanyam. Now this consciousness itself is called as your experience. Consciousness itself is called as experience. When the consciousness reflected in that thought, which thought? The ghatakara vritti, in the thought which has assumed the form of the pot, consciousness reflected in that is called as your experience of that object. Finally, what is your experience? Consciousness reflected in the thought form. Okay, so Shabdadi Vishayakarantakarana Vritti Pratibimbitam Chaitanyam Shabdadi Vishayanubhavaha. Now, generally, these are very, very subtle things which a person will not notice, because occupied with the bombarded by the experience of this world constantly, and therefore in order to see and understand what exactly does it mean by me experiencing the object. Now you want to experience, I want to have cold water, I want to have some nice lemonade, because it is summer. I want to have lemonade even in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and the ice should be floating, so on. You're too occupied, but you have never questioned what exactly does it mean. You are demanding experiences of objects, but have you ever questioned that what exactly does it mean by experience of the object? What is that? I am constantly demanding experience of the objects. But pause for a while and ask the question, what exactly is this experience of objects? And there, don't stop till you have arrived exactly where this teacher has brought you. Oh, experience of the object means where the eyes are able to contact the colors and forms, and that is called the experience of the object. No, there is much more to it. Because sometimes your eyes can be open, then it can be broad daylight, the object is also there in front of you, and yet you do not notice it. And therefore, there are elements which are responsible to make it as your experience. Just not this much arrangement is not sufficient, and therefore one needs to be more subtle in analysis. And if you are not going to understand what is your experience, why anybody else would be bothered about it? And this is what you have to understand, because by this understanding gives you the freedom. Freedom to know that I am beyond all these realms of experiences. And because I am beyond all these realms of experiences, I cannot be even the experiencer, bhokta, pramata. Then what am I? Consciousness which is behind all this. And unless and until you have arrived at that point, the meaning of word tvam is yet not available to you. Without the meaning of the word available at your disposal, how are you going to understand the sentence Tattvamasi? And therefore, every step over here is important. So, what is Vishayanubhava? Whenever you are asked, what does it mean by your experience of the object? Contemplate on this. Contemplate instead of, why did he say that and she said that and they did this to me and they did this, I did that to them. Enough of that story, useless story. I was good to them, but yet they were so bad to me. I'm trying to do good and yet people are calling me bad. Enough. Enough. This is just useless story. How much all your life you already have wasted doing this? What have you gained? Just harbored more and more raga and dvesha. Have you reached anywhere close to Parameshwara? What? Have you reached anywhere close to it? Is there peace? Have you resolved the problems? No. Then why? How much you are going to waste time on it? Therefore now, what is it? When the question is, what is Shabdadi Vishayanubhava? Then this is the answer. Chase it till you are able to match your understanding to the words of this teacher. Because he is bringing you what the Upanishads have conveyed. So, underline that. Shabdadi Vishayakara Antakarana Vritti Pratibimbitam Chaitanyam Shabdadi Vishayanubhavaha. There is a typo over here. Clear it in your physical book on page number 98. Okay. Shabdadi Vishayakara Antakarana Vritti Pratibimbitam. Every word. Dwell on every word. And then find out how every word is taking you and allowing your understanding to move further. Shabdadi Vishaya. A. Then Vishayakar. Now something has assumed the form of that Vishaya. Okay. Something has assumed of the object. Now object meaning just these five things. Colors and forms, etc. Or sound, colors, touch. These are the objects. Shabdadi Vishayakar. What has assumed the form of these objects? Antakarana Vritti. The thought. What is the thought? It is a modification of the mind. And therefore it is the vritti of the antakarana, of the inner improvement. Shabdadi Vishayakara Antakarana Vritti. So you have reached up to this point. Then Pratibimbitam. That something is reflected in this thought form now. What is that is reflected? Chaitanyam, the consciousness. And ultimately, what is called as your experience? Nothing but just this consciousness, which is reflected in the thought form, in the thought which has assumed the form of the object. So what is experience? Ultimately, it comes to consciousness only, Chaitanyam only. Because experience means knowledge. And that knowledge is knowledge and consciousness, awareness these are all synonyms. But when the awareness, consciousness, knowledge is reflected in the thought, and that thought has a particular form, then, and that form is the form of the object outside, then it is called as your experience of the world. Jagrata Avastha. Okay. Well on this. Antakarana vrittihi agre nirupayishyate. He says that, sir, what exactly is the modification of the mind, which is then called as the vritti, as the thought? Okay. What is this thing called as the antakarana vritti is going to be told to you. But when a little further down in the text, antakarana vritti agre, further, nirupayishyate will be explained in the following pages. Now, so now we need to understand, we have seen what is Jagrata Avastha. The definition is quite precise. Now we need to see what is Swapna Avastha. What is the dream state? What is it? Swapna Avastham Lakshayati. How does the teacher begin explaining or defining the Swapna Avastha? Here. Jagrat Bhoga Pradak Karmo Parame. In the original text, 98, the second line from the top. Jagrat Bhoga Pradak Karmo Parame Sati Indriyo Parame. Jagrat Anubhava Janya Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya Tajnanavastha Swapnavastha. Now, look at those, all the parts of that definition. Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmo Paramesati. What has happened now? That the karma which was responsible to deliver you the experience of the Jagrata Avastha. Okay? Because when you are going to see something, it will give you joy. You're going to see something else. It may invoke some sort of sorrow or a memory which makes you sad, so on and so forth. You understand that. Then what happens is Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karma. That karma which is responsible to deliver, Prada, which is responsible to deliver the experience of Jagrata Avastha. That karma is uparame, is withdrawn. Why? Because this much was enough for now. And then till another karma which will be responsible to give you the bhoga of Jagrata Avastha comes. Now, till then, it will be Swapna, Sushupti or some other Avastha. But now Jagrata Avastha is withdrawn. So, Jagrat Bhoga Prada Karmo Parame Sati. Then what happens? Indriyo Parame. Even the Indriyas are also withdrawn. The equipment with which you are contacting the world, even that equipment is also withdrawn. Therefore, you may have ears, the physical structure, but in the Swapna and Sushupti, you won't hear anything. Even if you have people around you are abusing you. Even if they are talking ill about you, you won't hear. And therefore, Jagrat Bhoga Pratakarmo Parame Sati Indriyo Parame. Then what happens now? Jagrat Anubhavajanya Samskaro Bhuta. Now, because of the impressions gathered of the experiences, the impressions of the experiences of your Jagrata Avastha of the waking world. Now these impressions, Udbhuta, now these impressions will play a drama. Samskaro Bhuta Vishaya. Now, that day, particular day, you went to the market and you had seen an elephant. Then somewhere you saw a person wearing a pink shirt. And this man was also blocking your road, your way. You said that he's blocking my road like an elephant in between. And then in the swapna, you went home, you slept. And there was a dream. And in that dream, then you saw a pink elephant. You saw a pink elephant. So the impressions of your Jagrata Avastha now have come to play. There is nothing like pink elephant. But how could you see a pink elephant? Because the impressions, okay, because of those impressions. And so, samskaro bhuta vishaya touch jnana avastha, and then the knowledge of those impressions is called as swapna avastha. This is said. Now we have the definition of swapna avastha. Now we are going to do the pariksha of this, and we are going to see how this definition is good or does it have any defects. And what are the defects of a definition? Just these three: ativyapti, avyapti, and sambhavana. If the definition is free from these three defects, then it is the most perfect definition. Okay. Now further. Swapna avastham lakshayati jagrati. Vishaya tajnana avastha swapna avastha iti ukte. Now if we were to say, swapna avastha, the dream state, is the objects and also the awareness of those objects. Vishaya tajnana. Okay. Vishaya tajnana means, Vishaya means the object. And tajnana means the awareness. Even if the Vishaya is there and if you are not aware of it, it cannot be your experience. So object needs to be there, and also the awareness of that object needs to be there. So Vishaya Tajnana Avastha. If we were to say Vishaya and Tajnana Avastha is called as Swapna Avastha, then what will happen? Sushuptau Ativyaptihi. It could have spilled into Sushupti. Now, which object? Because Sushupti also has an object of experience, and that is ignorance. So if you were to say only object and its awareness is called as Swapnavastha, then you could have confused Swapna with Sushupti. There can be a confusion. Instead of seeing Swapna, you would have confused it with Sushupti, with the deep sleep. Because in the deep sleep, the object is, there is experience, and that experience, the object of experience in the deep sleep is ignorance. So just to say object and its awareness is Swapna Avastha, dream state, it could have had spilled into the deep sleep state. And therefore, we need to add something more to it. Ativyapti Tattvanusandhanam. Therefore, in order to avoid that, we have to say something more. What have we said? Jagratadi ityadi jagrad ityadi visheshanam. So how has he said? Jagrad bhoga pratakarmo parame sati. So this has allowed us not to, or this has allowed us to avoid the overspilling, ativyapti. Sushuptau ajnana tatsakshiноho anadi siddhatvena samskaro bhutatva bhavan ativyapti. Now, this is important. Once again, let us collect before we get into this part of the Swapnavastha. Jagrad Avastha, in that definition, we have to understand what is called as the Vishayanabhava, Shabda, the Vishayanabhava, experience of this world with which you are all hassled. Swamiji, my experience, very, dukkha, people are like this, my family is like this, wife and children, and so on and so forth. Keep crying. And then, what is that Shabdadi Vishayanubhava? It is, after all, awareness. It is, after all, awareness. Is not it? Then, how is this awareness? It is awareness of a particular object. But how does that object become an object of that awareness? How does the object becomes the object of the awareness? So for which we have to understand that the object is external. The indriyas contact the object. As a result, the antakarana vritti, the thought, assumes the form of the object. And now, when you have a thought in form of that object, the awareness or the consciousness which is reflected in this thought form is called as your experience of the object. This is your experience of the world in Jagrada Avastha. So at the end of it, it is nothing but pure awareness. And therefore, even Bhagavan Shri Krishna also says that ultimately everything goes and culminates into knowledge or awareness. Jnane parisamapyate, culminates over there. You're striving for different experiences is nothing but just wanting to make that as your object of awareness. At the end of it, what remains is awareness alone. And this awareness, though I may use the word awareness, we are going to be, it is Chaitanyam. But how is this Chaitanyam? Vritti pratibimbitam Chaitanyam. Okay? Associated with the thought. This is Jagrada Avastha. What is Swapnavastha? We have started analyzing that. And Swapnavastha will begin where the Jagrada Avastha ends. When does the Jagrada Avastha end? Only when the karma, which is responsible to deliver such experience, has become shant, has become peaceful, is withdrawn, only then. And therefore, now this is Jagrat Bhoga Pratakarmo Parame Sati. We have seen this much part of it. Now we are going to see into this Swapna Avastha, the next part of the definition. But how will we proceed? I mean, is something that we will keep on doing as our study. Let's go by that slowly but steadily. Okay. Om Brahma Yat Prasadena Mayi Vishwam Prakalpitam Srimad Swayam Prakashakhyam Pranavami Jagatam Guru Yah Paramatma Jagat Srishtva Pravivesha Punaswayam Tam Krishnam Pratyagatmanam Vande Gopi Manoharam Yasya prasadadahamattvayatma Vishwam samastam mayi kalpitancha Tan sarvalokaika gurum sadashri Swayam prakasham gurumanatosmi Gurunam sharanam bhojam Pranipatya nirantaram Tatkripalte shatodvaita Chintastu Hamaraveyo Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate Om Shanti 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 Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutrabhashikritau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavadvyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Thank you all. Thank you very much.